talk specifically about some of the changes in college admissions. Recently, the Supreme Court, of course, overturned affirmative action in selective admissions. What's your response, and what kind of policy do you think can help overturn some of these issues of inequality, race-based inequality, that you have drawn our attention to so powerfully today?
So I think race and class are both incredibly important in America. They're correlated with each other because Black Americans at present tend to have lower levels of income on average, of course, than white Americans. But race and class are distinct issues. And so I think each needs to be addressed independently. What we're finding in our recent work is that, in essence, perhaps inadvertently, we have a system of affirmative action for the rich, where kids from the very highest income families are more likely to get in. So I think a first step in addressing all of these issues is to try to essentially take the thumb off of the scale that's in favor of kids from high income families, which is going to open up more slots that can then be distributed to kids from lower income families, or perhaps kids from underrepresented minority backgrounds. Then, in light of the Supreme Court ruling, there's a question of how one can have a more diverse class racially, admitting kids from underrepresented minority backgrounds who may have faced more adversity, for example, in a way that complies with the law, where we can't take account of race directly. And I think one potential approach to think about is coming back to the measures of neighborhood disadvantage that we talked about earlier, Francis, where one could use the data, for example, from the Opportunity Atlas that I was describing, which shows us where kids have historically had better chances of succeeding versus not, and identify children who grew up in environments where it was much harder to succeed, and perhaps give them an advantage in the admissions process. That type of approach will lead to more racial diversity, precisely because kids in Black families are more likely to be growing up in neighborhoods that are much more disadvantaged, that have lower rates of upward mobility. So I think thinking in these data-driven ways and trying to understand the roots of these differences in mobility by race can also help us in the college admissions context.